And we are live. Hello, everyone. This is My Two Cents, and welcome back to my channel for part 2 of Debunking Red Pill Lies, in which we are reviewing the Out of This World podcast with Jamie Henshaw and dating coach Adam Lane Smith, in which they are seeking to debunk these supposed lies that are told to men under the guise of the red pill. To give everyone, for those of you who haven't seen last week's stream, it is available on my channel to catch up, but to just give a brief overview again of why I'm reviewing this. Again, my channel was primarily, at least initially created, I talked a lot about free market economics and why government is so destructive. But over time, I've gotten really passionate about talking about men's issues, specifically because the reason government has become so totalitarian today is in part, largely, because of the gender wars we're currently seeing and the ability of government to manipulate women as a voting bloc towards its cause of expanding its power, women and blue-pilled men. And the reason I was so disgusted by this particular podcast is because, one, Adam Lane Smith doesn't, despite his claims of having, studied this issue for years and years, he doesn't even really seem to understand what the red pill is. And two, all the supposed lies he's teaching don't come from the red pill at all. At best, they are taking a particular red pill concept and taking it to an extreme illogical conclusion and then claiming that's what all red pill men believe. So to quick recap, what is the red pill? The red pill, when it comes to gender issues, is simply an understanding of two different facts. Men and women are biologically different and have different biological drives towards the end of reproducing and passing on their genes to the next generation. Point number one, men are naturally polygamous and absent moral, legal, or societal restraints will tend to pursue whatever strategy allows them to have sex with the highest number of different women, thereby ensuring that they have the most children and the highest chance that they pass their genes on to the next generation. Women, on the other hand, are naturally hypergamous and absent moral, legal, or societal restraints tend to pursue a two-pronged strategy. First, they seek to mate with the highest, most valuable genetic specimen of male available, thereby ensuring that they will have the strongest, healthiest children. And after they accomplish that, seek to secure the highest value man available for providing them and their offspring protection and provisioning. However, although they do not typically in this fashion seek multiple partners like men will, they will, whenever possible, seek to trade up from their current partner to one who is better able to either give them higher value genetic healthy offspring or transfer their loyalties to a male who is better able to provide protection and provision to their offspring. And that's all the red pill is. Now, what you do with that information is up to you. Within what is called the red pill, there are many other communities, such as Men Going Their Own Way, MGTOW, the pickup artist community, the men's rights activists, black pillars, incels. There are many other communities within the broader umbrella of the red pill that accept the red pill, but they have wildly different solutions about what you as a man ought to do with this information. But all the red pill is the acceptance of those facts. The question I want everyone to ask before we review the rest of this podcast is, again, will Jamie Hanshaw or Adam Lane Smith attempt to actually refute those points, say that is not how it is? This is actually a better explanation of how men and women behave. And two, if you accept what they are saying, will it by and large help you as an individual? Or will it by and large help women as a whole and, in all likelihood, promote greater state involvement in relationships and the family? And I think so. We proved pretty well last time that both Jamie and Adam Lane Smith, whatever they say, they are clearly feminists and believe that all men's relationships problems stem by and large from men being horrible people. If you disagree, you're free to review anything I said last time or this time. Let's go ahead and get the stream up here. And I'm going to back up just a little bit just to make sure that we overlap everything that was said last time. Let's get into this.
You have to keep her afraid all the time, and she'll love you for it because she wants to be afraid all the time because it makes her feel like you're a high value man and she should be afraid of losing you. So she should have all this sex with you so that she doesn't lose you. Well, that's called exploiting a woman who has anxious attachment style, is actually what that is. That's
Mhm.
that's prodding her abandonment issues to exploit her
Yes.
for sex is really what that is. It's evil. I mean that's evil. That's actual evil. That's very close to rape, arguably.
Yeah.
Doing
Oh.
that is the opposite of how the female sex drive works. The female sex drive is driven after the first 7 to 12 months, especially through oxytocin.
Mhm.
And oxytocin is derived and floods you when you feel safe, in the absence of stress, the absence of fear, when you
Yes.
trust somebody, when a man is worthy of your respect, when he cares for you, and when you feel valued, and when you feel like you are providing value to him in return. In a loving, reciprocal, emotionally intimate relationship, the female sex drive goes through the roof and you have to fight her off with a stick. So if there's a sex drive problem happening, it is almost always an intimacy problem, emotional intimacy, which usually tracks back to an attachment issue in one or both of the partners.
Mhm.
So pretending that you just have to make her afraid so that she'll have sex with you, that will eventually lead to that 70% divorce statistic.
Right.
And I believe that is right where we stopped last time. And again, I'm not going to repeat what I said last time regarding competition anxiety, but bear in mind, again, he said that will eventually lead to the 70% divorce statistic. What he is asserting is that women, when they despite the fact that women divorce the vast majority of the time, 70% of the time in general, and 90% of the time or more when the woman is college educated, the assertion made by Jamie and by Adam is that this, even though the woman is the one pulling the trigger, she's the one initiating the divorce, the man is always, or at least in the vast majority of circumstances, at fault for his woman's choice to divorce. Never forget, women are individuals capable of making their own choices, and to say that a man forces his wife to divorce him because he has bad behavior of some sort is fundamentally no different than a legitimately physically abusive husband saying, my wife makes me hit her because of her bad behavior. That is just garbage. No one makes you do anything. If a woman chooses to divorce, that is her choice. She has to own it.
And I think, well, speaking as a woman, I think the most arousing thing is being comfortable, right? That puts you in the mood faster than anything, faster than fear or excitement or being impressed. I think just feeling like you are safe and you're fed, you're loved, you're warm.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it opens up for men.
Okay, again, we talked about this last time, but if what Jamie is saying is true, that the thing that arouses women most is fundamentally feeling comfortable, then where are all the romance novels and erotic female content, porn for women, which is what romance novels is, that talk about these respectful men who just make women feel so comfortable that they can't resist but to rip their clothes off and jump into bed? I know of none, but I know of plenty. Last time we talked about 50 Shades of Grey, the Netflix series Sex Life. We talked about these best-selling novels and videos and series made for women by women that are all about men that have fetishes that are basically violent towards women, men who are traditional alpha males, confident, sleeping with all kinds of women, but they pick her for the night. And those are the ones that just women go crazy for. We're at the case that all women were needed to, the thing that fundamentally arouses women is being comfortable. I mean, come on. Do you really expect us to believe that?
And we don't in our marriage, in our the way that we view the world in our Christian marriage, you don't deny the other person just because. You have made an agreement that I'm here for you for that reason and you're here for me for that reason, and without due cause, or like, as much as I can, I'm going to try and satisfy you in that way. But there are times when you have to use your discipline and you have to wait, or you have to hold off a little bit or use a little romance. And I think in marriage.
Okay, so Jamie is saying she is a Christian and she has a Christian marriage. Now, I can say, I know not all my audience are Christians, but for those of you who are, you ought to know that the Apostle Paul talks about in denial of sex in 1 Corinthians, and says specifically that husbands and wives are not to deny each other sex except during times of mutual agreement. But she's saying, there are times when you have to hold back. And I would presume she's probably taking the position, which is extremely popular among modern so-called Christian women, that women can deny their husband sex because they're not feeling into it for spiritual reasons. And more importantly, many women seem to think they can deny their husband sex in some kind of effort to discipline them, which is extremely unbiblical for anyone who knows what the Bible has to say on the subject. First Peter says clearly that women have no authority to discipline their husbands. That's not how a Christian marriage is set up. But I do want to point out as a side note, many women, Christian and non-Christian, do attempt to use denial of sex as a way to manipulate their husbands. You do what I want or I will deny you sex. And at least this is successful to a degree, except in the modern age, men typically have access to pornography and other things that they can use to satisfy their sexual desires. Now, is that necessarily moral? No, I don't think so. But I think what is important to note is one of the reasons modern women hate pornography so much is not out of a genuine concern for the health or morals of their men. They hate it because it makes it the process of denying sex in order to get what you want in your relationship is less effective if men have easy options like that they can use to satisfy their sexual desires. I know, strictly speaking, that's not where she was going, but I do want to point that out.
Which is especially when a man starts acting childish is the biggest turnoff. So they talk a lot about masculinity. You have to be like pumped and swole and like Liver King or Andrew Tate or like all these masculine men, and that's how you attract a woman. I really don't agree with that. I think the masculinity comes from being an adult and knowing how to regulate your emotions and not throw tantrums, not have outbursts, not lose your temper. These things are what
I'd say that is largely projection. I mean, I know plenty of women who regularly throw tantrums. Think of all the men and women you know on a day-to-day basis. Who is more likely to throw a tantrum in public, in the workplace, in the grocery store, anywhere else? Are men or women more likely? Yeah, I think we all know the answer.
Women are attracted to in reality. It's not muscles are nice and they're useful for lifting heavy things, but it's the way you feel around the person. Like you mentioned, you'd have to feel safe and comfortable,
and again, I would point out, Jamie again said she is a Christian and has a Christian marriage. Where in 1 Corinthians did Paul say you are allowed to deny your husband sex if you're not feeling comfortable, whatever that means? It does not. It says you are not to deny one another unless you mutually come to agree to abstain for a time. And that mutual means the husband must go along with it. It is not something she as a wife can demand.
That's when the arousal happens. Do you agree with that?
Things that would make you a good father are going to make a woman aroused. Just generally speaking. Red pill guys like to go back to evolutionary psychology, which I think is great. I love evolutionary psychology. Apply it correctly. Evolutionary psychology says that a woman is going to be most aroused and most safe and most loyal to a man who would be an incredible father.
That is not technically true. Evolutionary psychology says she is going to be most aroused to have sex with a man who is most genetically advantageous and most likely to give her strong, healthy children. On the other hand, she is likely to use sex as a tool for getting a man, once she has secured those good genes. If that man is not going to stick around, she will then try to use her feminine wiles to find another man who is likely to stick around and provide protection and provision. But she will still inherently feel the drive, if another man becomes available, to transfer her loyalties to a better provider. Again, not necessarily in the same man. And I think that's one of the biggest confusing factors is women on one hand want, when it comes to the discussion between, say, black pillars and other members of the red pill about how much do looks matter when it comes to attracting a woman. Well, again, you got to understand evolutionary psychology. When it comes strictly to the reproduction angle, looks are pretty much it. Women are most likely to be aroused sexually by a man who physically appears to be the strongest physical specimen and is best going to give her the strongest physical offspring. However, that man, in all likelihood, may not be a good husband and good father. So after she secured those good genes, she will then seek to transfer her loyalty to a man who is a protector provider. And that he may or may not arouse her sexually. She will, however, express interest in him. Her interest may or may not be sexual in nature. She may simply be using sex to obtain protection and provision. Again, that is not to say that this is moral or that's what women should do. It is just merely saying you as a man must understand that this is how female biology works, whether she understands it or not. Just because she can't understand her own nature doesn't mean you can't. You have to don't look at what she says she's looking for in a man, look at what she does. And again, those two statements I said, men are naturally polygamous, women are naturally hypergamous. Think back to your experience dating, starting in high school and all the way until now, however old you are. What better explains men's and women's behavior in dating? The red pill or what Adam Lane Smith and the rest of the blue pillars are explaining here? Think about it.
Not the dude bro who's flexing in his car driving by with 3 bikini models to make his wife jealous so that she'll have sex with him later that night.
Right.
She's going to be with the guy who is an incredible father. So would this make me a great father? Do that. That is probably what's going to do it. As long as
because
her
sex leads to
attachment is on
babies,
point.
right?
It does. That's evolutionary psychology.
And another point to make. Women cared a lot more about a man being a good father when there was no welfare state. Women needed men to support them and protect them. And further, for all but recent history, having sex was a huge risk to women because if she got pregnant, she's now in an imperiled physical condition. She's less able to run away from danger. She's going to need a man to protect her. And further, if that men inherently know taking care of someone else's child is not in my best interest, that's not my child, it does not help me propagate my genetic legacy, why should I take care of another man's child? So if she mated with Chad Maximum, the biggest, most genetically superior man, but he didn't stick around, and then she discovered that all the other men who weren't as genetically superior still were not willing to take care of her, oh boy, she's in trouble. But bear in mind, modern women don't face that problem. We have modern police forces that are trained to default to women are always right, women are always innocent victims, and they will always believe what women say. And further, even if the father of her children doesn't stick around, she doesn't need to worry. The court will award her child support. And even if the man is dirt poor, she can count on there being social welfare programs so that she doesn't have to worry about working to take care of her children. So this again goes to show when government steps in and enacts these policies that remove the natural consequences of a woman's hypergamous decisions, we should not be surprised that they are far more narcissistic in their decision making and tend to act hypergamously much more often because the natural consequences have been removed by government. What Adam Lane Smith's saying about you need to show you're a good father, that was true once. But because government has essentially said, women, it doesn't matter what you do, we will protect you, women care a lot less about whether or not men are good fathers than they used to.
Women have sex. Well, back then, 10,000 years ago, they didn't have very many good, reliable birth control options.
Yeah.
So sex probably would lead to babies. And I don't know if you've seen a pregnant woman, but they don't tend to walk very quickly in the 3rd trimester.
Exactly.
They don't tend to hunt very well. And you don't want a pregnant woman waddling into battle against a saber-toothed tiger or against, other tribe. You want safety, security, and clustering in the middle. So you want a reliable man who's going to take care of you and provide for you.
And Adam is absolutely right on this point. But again, is that still the case given no-fault divorce, a family law system that overwhelmingly grants child custody, alimony, and child support to women, and further, a welfare system that guarantees that even if the husband is dirt poor, the woman does not need to fear. The government will not let her or her child go hungry. She is guaranteed some kind of social safety net to protect her, whether the father of her children sticks around or not. Are we going to talk about that at all? Is Adam going to talk about that at all? Does he factor that? Does he believe that at all factors into modern women's decisions?
Now, it's not politically correct to say in our current world, but it's what our evolution has tracked for. So the closer that a man is to a real man who would be a good father, the closer he's going to be to having a loving, wonderful wife that is a good wife.
Mm-hmm.
As long as she is healthy in her attachment.
And takes responsibility. So I've never once thought in being attracted to a man, how many Bugattis does he have? Never once. Okay, has that entered into?
Okay, on the point, the whole Bugatti thing has been made famous because Andrew Tate famously loves to tweet about how many Bugattis he has. She never once has she thought about, when considering a man, how many nice cars does he have. I would like to point out there have been actual academic studies that have been done on this, where you had a male model and a female model, and they were posed in a vehicle, exactly the same vehicle, the exactly same model, same outfit, same pose, except they took both the male and the female and they had them take a picture in a Ford Fiesta and in a Lincoln Continental. Or I don't remember if that was the exact car, but off the top of my head, I know it was a Ford Fiesta or it was, one of these very nice, expensive cars. And then men were told to rate the female in both pictures, and women were told to rate the male in both pictures and say which picture they found to be more attractive. Well, to the surprise of no one, the men said the woman was equally attractive in both pictures, whether that was an attractive woman, and if she was sitting in a Ford Fiesta or if she was sitting in a Mercedes or whatever car it was, it didn't matter. She was equally attractive in both pictures. Women, on the other hand, overwhelmingly stated that the man was more attractive when he was sitting in the Mercedes or whatever vehicle it was. I don't remember off the top of my head. But the authors of the study cited dozens of other studies that supported this view, but it shows very clearly this is not up for debate. There is a direct link in the female brain between wealth and arousal. Women are more likely to be aroused by a man with a nice car than a man without one. That doesn't mean that in every single woman, everywhere, she will always pick the guy with the nice car over the guy who doesn't have one. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it is undeniably true that women value wealth and tend to pursue men who signal wealth more than men that do not. That is female nature. You can try to deny it, but observation of reality just shows that's not the case.
My decision-making process, but I want to know, like, is he responsible? Okay, does he know what time it is? He's sober? Can he drive? Like the things that, because being pregnant is a very vulnerable place.
Yeah.
Not
you know what's sorry. You know what's interesting?
And again, they're going all over this. This is all true, technically speaking, but they're not talking about the fact government has stepped in and made it much less dangerous. Government has done everything it can to remove the natural consequences of hypergamy. Should we be that surprised that women are acting more in accordance with their hypergamy and being less careful than they used to be in past generations?
Interesting here is the kinds of women that would be attracted to a man with a Bugatti. The way that money and wealth track in is when you don't believe anybody will ever treat you well, or if you don't believe anybody will ever treat anybody else well. If you don't believe that real love and honorable behavior and decency are possible for you, then you fall back on basic things you can trust outside of humans, which is money. Those are the only women who are going to go for Bugattis. So the dudes who
again, Bugattis, not every woman's going to say he must have a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or a Bugatti. But again, studies have shown that women, more so than men, are at least 1,000 times more sensitive to what their mate's salary is. And most women will not even seriously consider dating a man unless he first proves that he makes at least 30% more than she does. There are numerous academic studies that back that up. So again, you're not disproving the red pill here. All you're pointing out is that there are numerous factors that go into a woman's selection. And what I'm saying is you're not addressing the fact that government meddling in this process to remove the natural consequences is having a profound effect on the decisions women are making. Does it mean all women in all circumstances will always cheat on their husband with a richer guy? No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying this is how women behave and government is messing it up. Where is the talk about this? You're supposedly talking about red pill lies.
You follow red pill, you are only going to attract women who are going to confirm the bias that red pill tells you about. That's it. You're not going to find the healthy women because they will not allow you within 10 feet of them because they can smell you.
Hey, your vibe is your tribe. And I see all of these podcast shows, and all they do is invite, a parade of strumpets on their show to make fun of them, which is deplorable in itself. And then they get this idea that that's what all women are like because that's all that they're exposing themselves to, right?
Yeah. Hey,
Okay,
look,
they're talking about shows like Fresh and Fit, which they've already been exposed as frauds. I don't need to talk about them. But I think an important point here. Yes, some of these some of these pickup artists in particular invite OnlyFans models and other women on their channel that really showcase the worst aspects of female nature so that they can laugh at them and so that they can make money off their male audience. But one thing I notice is, are women like Jamie actually actively calling out their sluttier sisters who behave this way? Because on one hand, they say this is deplorable. Not all women are like that. But the supposedly traditional conservative women are always completely unwilling to actually call out women for bad behavior. This is when women behave like this, they're not coming out saying these women don't represent us. This is horrible behavior. We renounce these women. They deserve everything that's coming to them. No, they always say these poor women, they've only been mistreated by men. If their father had just been better, if their boyfriend had just been better, they wouldn't have made these mistakes. They still, ironically, end up blaming men for the position these women are in. I will believe you're not a feminist when you actually say women as individuals need to bear the consequences for their own decisions.
these women just like the ones on the porno videos that I watch. That confirms that all women in the real world are just like this. Yeah, that's exactly.
And again, not the claim is not all women in the world act like this. It's all women are affected by the same natural impulses that these women are. These women have taken it to 100% and acted on their hypergamy to the moon and made a ton of horrible decisions as a result. Not every woman does the same. And again, I'll go back to this example. We could look at a man who has cheated on his wife over and over, maybe had 20 different partners, and he has children out of wedlock, and he's just cheated on her over and over. And you can say, well, not all men cheat on their wives like that. You're right. But I'll tell you this, every married man has seen just as many other women as that man and felt the desire to have sex outside of marriage like that man. He's just made a better choice. What separated him from the cheater is not his natural impulses, but the decisions he chose to make. What separate the women who don't drive up their hypergamy to 100, what separates them from these girls that go on Fresh and Fit is not their natural impulses. It's the decisions that they make. And yes, many women make better decisions, but that doesn't mean they're not subject to the same hypergamous drive. It doesn't mean that you as a man should be completely ignorant of this, or that you shouldn't especially be aware of how no-fault divorce and family law and all these other aspects greatly tilt the system into her favor. Are you really sure, as you think you are, that she's so much better than these other girls that you're not at risk for divorce and getting raked over the coals in divorce court? Can you be sure of that? That's what the red pill encourages men to do.
Exactly what they're doing.
So, speaking of those women, lie 4, you said all women have personality disorders and need to act avoidant to control them. They don't say this explicitly, but red pill teaches you that all women have a personality disorder and you have to counter that with avoidant attachment. It's extremely dysfunctional.
Okay, at least he's admitting no one says this explicitly. He's claiming this is something that is implicit to the red pill. Now, again, no one in the red pill is saying all women have personality disorders. Here is what we are saying. Women are naturally, to a degree, narcissistic. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, when you consider the natural reproductive drive of men and women, a man can, in theory, could reproduce with 100 women in a year, more even. A man can pretty much keep having children. He can have multiple children a year with multiple partners pretty much until he dies. Women, on the other hand, are limited to one pregnancy at a time. It puts them in an imperiled condition when they're pregnant. They need to be protected. And further, they are working on a biological clock. They're going to run out of eggs eventually. They can't waste their time with men who don't benefit them. So for that reason, men are naturally outward looking, seeking to find and impress women to have children with them. Women are naturally inward looking, seeking to protect themselves and do what is best for them, whether it benefits the man or not, because they know, unlike the man, they don't have, as the time restrictions and activity restrictions are much higher on them, so they tend to look inward. this tends to manifest itself in a narcissistic fashion, in that women are naturally going to be looking out for their best interests, not the best interests of their men or their nation or whatever else. And this is empirically proven when you look at how men are much more likely to be loyal to their women. It is much harder for a man to get over a breakup than a woman is. And men, interestingly enough, another factor into this, men are more capable of being patriotic and loyal to their nation than women are. And a great example of this, in World War II, as soon as France fell to the Nazis, we had what was called the German bastard epidemic. And what that was is that after France fell under Nazi control, large amounts of French women immediately started having sex with German soldiers. And after the war, all these half German, half French children that were born from these unions were labeled German bastards, and these women had their head shaved, had all their hair shaved off to publicly shame them. Well, what does that show? It shows that women, unlike the men, women were not inherently loyal to their nation. Once they felt the Germans had won, they decided, you know what, these guys won. I have to take the action that's in my best interest, that's going to help me to reproduce and ensure my genes get passed on to the next generation. And the best thing I can do to do that is transfer my loyalties to the guys who are winning. Again, that is not to say all women have some kind of personality disorder. It's, again, being aware of how women innately work, how their minds function, and how they naturally look inward as opposed to outward because of the difference in their reproductive strategy. Doesn't mean all women are going to make the same decision, but again, are they at all going to talk about the fact that government is actively working to remove the natural consequences so women are much less hesitant to act in this manner?
Mm-hmm. Women with severe personality disorders, I do not want to demonize them. Usually they've been through pretty severe abuse. A personality disorder is the extreme version, the fully diagnosable version of attachment issues. It's one of the only allowances of attachment that they put into the DSM-5 or the 4. That's one of the only things that therapists really...
the DSM he's got there on his shelf, I'm not sure which one it is, but I know the DSM has been adjusted recently to remove gender dysphoria as a issue. It's what I bring that up to say the people who are deciding on the DSM are by far far left political liberals. I wouldn't trust anything that's listed in the most current DSM.
Really learn about for attachment theory. Most therapists don't know about attachment theory. So when it's that extreme, her terror at being abandoned, being controlled, being hurt, having to avoid intimacy, having to avoid trust or love, all of that has welded together into a semi-permanent state of being where that's how she engages in all of her relationships, and especially her romantic ones. Mm-hmm. So yes, that is what Red Pill is describing, as a woman who will leave you the moment you are too vulnerable, or the moment you lose your job, or the moment you're sick, or the moment you cry in front of her, or the moment anything, she will get up and run from the room because she no longer feels safe, and she'll do anything to find somebody else immediately who makes her feel safe. Yes.
Again, that's a lie. We're not saying any woman anywhere will immediately leave you, but the underlying principle is true. Women are biologically programmed to be attracted to men who show signs of strength and show that they are going to protect and provide for them. If you show vulnerability to a woman, she will inherently be less attracted to you. Doesn't mean she's going to leave you at that moment. And yes, Adam Lane Smith is correct on this point. Borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, not every woman is diagnosable in those kind of things. But every woman is affected by her inherent inward look. What's the best way to judge whether you're dealing with that kind of woman? Well, again, look at her. You look at her past. You look at the decisions she's made in the past. I've always found one of the best predictors is what kind of man is her father and what kind of relationship does she have with her father. If she really is, part of a woman becoming emotionally sound is having a strong father figure in her life when she's young. And unfortunately, because of no-fault divorce and because of women being able to rip their children fathers at any time, we have more and more women growing up without fathers, which means we have an increasing number of women every year who are more likely to be affected by these personality disorders. But again, is Adam Lane Smith fighting against that? Is he saying we need to repeal no-fault divorce? We need to encourage couples not to divorce so that we have women growing up with fathers in their lives so that they're less likely to be affected by this? No, he already said The last stream we talked about women only divorce for righteous reasons. Therefore, he pretty much supports women leaving their husbands because they only do so when their husbands are horrible people. Give me a break.
That is the woman Red Pill is describing, is the most severe women with personality disorders and without consciences, who are both. That's what Red Pill is describing to a T, and saying every woman on earth is this way.
No, not every woman on earth is this way, but they're getting more like that again. So let's start advocating that the state stop screwing with the family, which is ensuring that with every passing generation, more and more women are going to be exactly like this.
Exactly what's happening.
Well, and they do have a legitimate grievance, because we talk a lot about, on my show, we talk about psyops and how culture is steered to go in certain directions by powers that you know nothing about, right? Propaganda and elite and things like that. So in my opinion, I feel like the popular culture today that we have is a vehicle for making narcissistic people. So you're going to run into that, and you're going to have interactions that are negative and damaging to you if you don't know what to look out for. But then it's funny, like, this has always been, women are too emotional. I don't understand. What do you want? You don't make sense. So there's a couple reasons for that, and we've kind of covered them on my show a little bit before. Hormones is a big thing. Women are on a 28-day cycle, men are on a 24-hour cycle. So you have to pay attention to those different hormones on the different weeks of her cycle. She's going to be acting differently, right? And have different needs and be relating to you in a different way.
Again, this doesn't mean she's going to, because of her cycle, wander into an alley and have the time of her life.
No.
She's probably just going to be different with you in her relationship.
Okay, what Jamie and Adam are saying here is pretty much the red pill. There are psyops going on from the powers that be, specifically government. They are encouraging women to be more narcissistic, to try and remove the natural consequences of their hypergamous natures so that they are more encouraged to take these actions, which will lead to more children being born still. The government wants children to be born. They need workers, but it wants them to be raised in government indoctrination centers, i.e. public schools, not by strong fathers. This is the red pill. So what you're saying, men should not believe this? We shouldn't be aware of these things when we pursue relationships with women? I'm not following, but let's keep going.
Like she's ovulating as she wants.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the alley moment, is ovulation. There you go.
So, and then they talk a lot about logic versus emotions. I hear this in Red Pill a lot. Well, men are logical, so we're always right because we think of things in a purely logical way, and you think of things in a purely emotional way.
Okay, is that true in 100% of aspects? No, but again, that is by and large true. Men are more logical thinkers. Women are more emotional thinkers. This is why men are designed to be the head of the family, and women are designed to be the caretaker of the family. When they work together, they accomplish something together that neither can by themselves. This is absolutely true. Are all two individuals exactly the same? Are there some women that are more logical than emotional? Of course, there are exceptions, but the exceptions prove the rule.
And neither of those, they have to work in synergy, right? Logic and emotion. You just can't be Spock, and you can't be like a crazy person. But another thing that we are investigating now is birth control, and how that has an effect on how you relate to people, especially men. So there have been cases where the woman will go off birth control and she is no longer attracted to her partner because he doesn't have the pheromones that she would need off birth control. He doesn't have the personality type. Maybe he's a little effeminate for her. So when you go off the birth control, that's when you want the high testosterone men. And
again, that's the red pill. That's evolutionary psychology. That's what we're saying. So again, this is all about how the red pill is a lie, yet you're agreeing with large amounts of what it actually teaches.
Birth control, it affects all of your physiology, not just your reproductive, but your attitudes and the way that you interact with people. So I know this is cutting edge stuff, but it also contributes to why guys think women are irrational, because we're being poisoned in all sorts of ways.
Maybe men think women are irrational because by and large, women act for emotional, not rational reasons. Give me a break.
Very true. We're all being poisoned emotionally. The research shows that 50 years ago, only about 1/3 of American adults in America, for example, had attachment issues. 2/3 did not. Then the research about 20, 25 years ago was about 50-50. Now the research shows that about 2/3 of adults in America have an attachment issue, and only 1/3 of them have secure attachment.
Now, here's a point I want to make. So, Adam Lane Smith, his whole dating coach, psychologist persona seems to be about helping people fix their attachment issues. Tell me, is it financially good or bad for Adam Lane Smith for there to be more people with attachment issues or less? Clearly, it's good if there are a lot of people out there who have these issues, because then they will come pay Adam Lane Smith to fix those issues. So does Adam Lane Smith therefore have a direct incentive to remove government policies and psyops that they've been talking about that are making people this way? No, clearly he has a direct financial incentive for people to be screwed up like this, so they will then pay him to try and fix them. Are we starting to understand maybe why he's coming off as a feminist, why he's not saying anything about the government is at fault for a lot of these things, why he's so against the red pill? I wonder. I mean, I'll say as an aside, I don't know Adam Lane Smith personally. I can't say with any kind of certainty what his true motivations are, but again, the facts seem to add up there. So you do with that what you will.
Oh, wow.
So we are getting so much worse with the attachment, with our belief that love exists, with the belief we will be taken seriously, that we'll be cared for. Then you factor in, birth control, hormonal fluctuations. You factor in dudes looking at porn since they're 10, 12 years old and thinking that's what women want from them. So they have to be a porn actor to get a woman and make her happy and make her feel good. You factor in Tinder, where you can keep swiping. And when you sleep with one person, the novelty wears off. You can get your next dopamine hit by swiping on somebody else and leave their house, leave their apartment to go sleep with the next person. And fast food and everything that we're funneling into our bodies and our lives and our hearts and our beings, we are being poisoned endlessly. So cultivating.
And all this that you're saying, Adam Lane Smith, that's the red pill. That's pointing out how men's and women's natural natures are affected when you put all these things in place. You're right. Dating apps like Tinder have made women's hypergamy exponentially worse. Because when it used to be that a woman was basically limited to dating the people within her immediate town and her immediate community, thanks to online dating services like Tinder, a woman living in podunk nowhere, Nebraska, she can get in touch with a professional athlete who lives in California, or a rich businessman from Asia, or what have you. But we have what was once a local sexual marketplace is now a global sexual marketplace, and that combined with government policies that reward hypergamy make women behave even more like this. This is all the red pill. These are not lies.
Your life, curating your life and yourself is absolutely crucial if you want to live a life that means something to you. And that includes your relationships and your attachment.
And living chronically online, that's an emotional poison. And it does hamper, true love. So your line number 5, you said true love does not exist, only lifelong control. The biggest lie the red pill community teaches is the opposite of what I teach, that attachment can never be fixed, so you must become a manipulator.
That is not what the red pill teaches. Again, what the red pill teaches is because of men's and women's nature, men and women love differently than one another. Women, because they are biologically driven to, 1, have the strongest children possible, and 2, find a man who has better protection and provisioning than the man she's currently with, women are fundamentally incapable of loving men the same way men love women. This isn't right or wrong. It's just the way that it is. True love doesn't exist. Let me tell you this. It doesn't matter how strong your emotional attachment to somebody. If you are a man and you stop providing for a woman, you stop protecting her, she will not stay with you, period. Men, much in the same way, men are incapable of ceasing to be attracted to many different women, no matter how wrongly a man loves his wife, no matter how committed he is to staying with her till death do us part. It is fundamentally impossible for him to stop being attracted to other women. This is just his nature. That's all the red pill is saying. Men and women love differently, and no matter how much they love each other and how committed they are to one another, They cannot change their inner nature, and you need to be aware of this, which is why in the past, when men and women got married, the vows specifically say till death do us part. Not only that, but it used to be in America that if you wanted a divorce, you had to prove in court that there was some kind of just grievance on your part that justified you divorcing them. If you as a wife or a husband could not prove that your spouse had in some way wronged you, it was impossible to divorce. And further, as I've explained in my defending traditional marriage series, I firmly believe any marriage cannot succeed unless there is a contract in place that states very clearly and unequivocally, it does not matter who tries to divorce. If one partner tries to divorce the other, they immediately will lose all rights to child custody, possession of marital assets, or anything else. They must walk away with nothing if they want to divorce. How many people do you think would divorce if that were really the case? And further, that is the only circumstance under which I will truly believe that someone is divorcing because it's so bad that they would rather be broke and destitute than stay with the person. There have to be actual penalties for divorce. There have to be moral, legal, and societal restraints in place that prevent men and women from acting on their base natures to the benefit of them and to society. That's the only way marriage is going to succeed. And government has stepped in to make this impossible. And that's something they are not addressing at all.
Attachment can be fixed. It absolutely can. I had attachment issues when I was young growing up. I fixed them. I've helped thousands and thousands of others fix theirs. Attachment is real. You can heal. If there was no ever healing ever for any human being on the face of the earth, then red pill would be right.
Right.
And actually,
Yep, there's healing. All you got to do is pay $500 for Anna Lane Smith's dating coach course, or perhaps $7,000 for his 10-week psychology consultations.
red pill would still be wrong because red pill exists to try to teach men how to be different and how
No, red pill is just men and women have distinct natures. You don't have to like it. That's the way it is. You as a man, or even as a woman for that matter, must understand how male and female nature works if you are ever to have a successful relationship with a man or a woman. Period.
heal themselves. So even their own premise would be flawed if you believed their premise. It is a complete and total paradox in and of itself. It cannot function. So healing can happen. The reason you hear about attachment theory is so you can then fix your attachment.
Now, here's something I just want to say. Again, I am not a pickup artist. I do not belong to the pickup artist community. And I think by and large, most people in the pickup artist community are just sleazy individuals, much like Adam Lane Smith, that are trying to get lonely men to pay them money online to learn how to get laid. But I think one thing that is said by the pickup artist community, like it or leave it, what they're saying is, look, feminists got their way. Government, we now live in a society that exalts women above all else, that makes it so that a woman can accuse you of anything and she's going to be unconditionally believed. We've got a family law system that is unbelievably slanted in a woman's favor. And no matter what you try to do, if she pulls the trigger on you, you have no recourse. You could lose half your assets. You could lose your children. You could lose everything. Basically, what a lot of the pickup artists are saying is, we're so far gone. All I can do is understand this and use that knowledge to try and get what I want. And what I want is to have sex with lots of women. Now, you can say these people are sleazy, but all they're really doing is recognizing the current state of our culture and exploiting it to get what they want. And they're not fundamentally being any different than the women who are exploiting the laws that are currently in place to get what they want by divorcing their husbands and getting financial rewards. I mean, both people are doing wrong, in my opinion, but they're just reacting to the current state of our culture. And that current state is very, very heavily influenced by government policy. So if you want this to change, don't just go, you're not going to fix it by preaching to men about how the red pill is wrong. You've just got to do everything right and your woman's going to love you. You got to tell them the truth. And that is that government has screwed this up. Now we together need to figure out what we're going to do about it. And it's not going to change at all unless we can point the finger directly where it belongs, and that is at the state.
The reason that you endure these pain and suffering is so that you can learn to avoid those things and learn those lessons. Feelings are incredibly useful data. They shouldn't govern our decisions, but they should inform our decisions. That's the thing that red pill guys miss when they say we are purely logical. They're trying to go back to ancient times where men said, oh, women are are sad little creatures. We will pat them on the head. Victorian era, even far back in ancient times, there were men who said this. Feelings should inform your decisions. Your wife should help advise you on the decisions that you make. Even the Bible says this very explicitly.
I don't know of anyone. The red pill has nothing to do with that. I would agree. In any successful marriage, although the husband is the leader and ultimately responsible, he should take his wife's input. I mean, any leader, anyone who's ever had employees under them knows if you're going to be a successful leader, if you're going to lead a company or a team, you have to listen to the input of your employees. And it's the same way with a husband and a wife. That really has nothing to do with the red pill.
And yes, reason should govern the day, but reason alone, divorced from feeling, divorced from heart, divorced from spirit and meaning, reason, you become a robot killing machine. That's all you are, is the term.
Then why have you not, Adam, why have you not talked about no-fault divorce at all? Getting back to the 70% divorce statistic, you said that by and large, the only reason women divorce is because their husbands are just horrible people. But then women are also emotional and they need to take their feelings into account. I mean, I'm getting confusing messages on what exactly your viewpoint is on divorce. You can't understand the red pill if you don't understand no-fault divorce, family law, and how it affects marriage in today's day and age. And if you honestly believe that the only reason women divorce their husbands is because their husbands are horrible people, well, you know what? Let me put it to this way. I know this is an extreme example, and it's not an exact reflection of how modern no-fault divorce is set up, but I just want you to consider it as a thought experiment. Let's suppose that we lived in a society where there was a government that passed a law that said, we are passing this new law to protect husbands from Karen wives, basically wives that are super emotional and out of line and just making their husbands' lives horrible. So we're going to make it so that any husband anywhere has the right to execute his wife without question, without state involvement. And in fact, and when he does, he will receive a $10,000 payment direct from the state. I mean, that's a ridiculous example, but let's just for the sake of argument, let's assume that was the society we were living in and that was the law that was passed. And under this society, a man approaches a woman and says, will you marry me? And she says, are you crazy? Why would I put myself in a situation where you have the right at any time to shoot me in the head and kill me, and the state's going to pay you $10,000? I'm not willing to take that risk. And then suppose the man said, honey, you're being ridiculous. Do you really not trust me? Do you really not think I would ever do that to you? If that law was only put in place to stop bad women. If you're a good woman, aren't you? If you just do everything, you have no need to fear that I would ever do that. And she's like, okay, well, can we at least in our marriage, can you sign some kind of contract that removes that right from you to do that? And he says, no, I'm not going to do that. I mean, the fact that you would even think I would do that shows that offends me. Why are you so offended that I have the right to do that? I mean, are you saying you would be a bad wife? Because that's the only reason I would ever execute you like that. I would never do it unless you were a bad wife. The mere fact that you want to get rid of that law must show that you're a bad person. I mean, that's ridiculous. Of course, no woman would agree to a marriage under those circumstances. But think about it. That is really the situation modern men are put in. They're being told, look, no-fault divorce shouldn't matter to you. So long as you marry a good woman and you do everything right, you have nothing to fear. Really? Are women just so fundamentally good that we know for a fact they would never divorce a husband for selfish reasons? They'll never misuse no-fault divorce. The fact that they'll be financially and emotionally rewarded never has anything to do with a divorce. If that were the case, divorce rates should have been the same before there was no-fault divorce. There should have been just as many seeking divorce before no-fault divorce as after. Yet after no-fault divorce rates skyrocket. I wonder what's really going on here.
Terminator.
Yeah, it reminds me of those movies where they program the AI to fix all the problems of humanity, and its solution is to just kill everyone to eliminate suffering. Right?
That's pure reason.
Logical
right?
answer, right?
Right. And so many of these guys want to look at Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics. Oh, they had zero emotions. They killed their emotions. No, Marcus Aurelius was very clear. You experience your emotions. You feel them. You learn from them, but you do not allow them to govern you. And that's what red pill guys tend to miss is,
I don't know of any red pill person who says don't have any emotions at all. What they say is exactly what Marcus Aurelius said. You experience them, you don't let them govern you. And ultimately, you make your decisions based on reason, not emotion. Men, by and large, do that. Women, by and large, are wired to be more emotional. That's why when they work together, they give children what they need. They've got reason from their father and emotion from their mother. And when both parents are involved, as they should be, it raises functioning, successful adults. Why do you think when we have a generation that's being raised primarily by single mothers who are primarily emotional, we're getting more and more people who are just frankly idiots who can't reason to a rational conclusion if their life depended on it?
They would tell me to kill my feelings. No, they would tell you to experience them and be educated by them and then make your decisions as a reasoning man. That is the distinction here. There shouldn't be a distinction. There should not be a hostility or a false dichotomy between male or female. Yes, we are different. We are complementary. We should work together when we are healthy. That's how it should.
I fully agree. And I see that's has nothing to do with the red pill, strictly speaking. No one in the red pill that I know of is contradicting that.
Should work.
And I support a patriarchy. You know, I believe men should take the initiative to.
She can't say she supports a patriarchy and say she supports no-fault divorce. Those things are mutually exclusive.
Be the leaders, but they should also, you know, take into account their opinions of their women, their perspectives, their counsel.
Here's a great example I've heard used once. Way back when, there was a great men's rights blogger called Dalrock. He hasn't been blogging for a while now, but his blog is still available, dalrock.wordpress.com. I remember a specific article he talked about where he was responding to a Christian pastor who was basically saying that in marital counseling, anytime a man and a woman come for marital counseling, with the assumption that the man is always at fault for whatever the problems are. And the reason for this is that he says a man's leadership in a marriage is similar to that of a Navy captain. So in the Navy, you know, the American Navy, the British Navy, any military Navy in the world, the captain is responsible for where the ship goes. And if the ship runs aground, by and large, that will lead to the captain being relieved of command. And he uses the example, you know, if the captain is, suppose the ship is, you know, sailing at night and the sailor that's on the deck who's steering the ship runs aground. Even if the captain was asleep and in his bed at the time, the captain is responsible for all the sailors on the ship. And even though he didn't directly cause that sailor to run aground, he's still responsible. And that's the kind of situation we're in with a husband and a wife. That's why husbands are always at fault for the problems in their marriage. Well, Dalrock pointed out something important. The Navy is a military organization that is structured in a particular fashion. And in particular, the captain has complete and total authority over all sailors. The reason the captain is at fault if the ship runs aground is because he is directly responsible for training the sailors, telling them what to do, and ensuring they function properly. And if the sailors disobey, they get thrown in jail. Like, not kidding, that's how the military functions. If you disobey your commanding officer, you are going to the brig. But with that direct authority comes direct responsibility. So yes, in that situation, even if the captain was asleep and in bed, and if the ship runs aground, he's still at fault. But now let's alter the scenario. Let's suppose that sailor who's steering the ship, let's suppose that sailor had no obligation whatsoever to obey the captain. And in fact, if the captain ever issued that sailor an order he didn't like, he could call the U.S. military counseling services and say that the captain was being abusive towards him. And further, if he decided he really didn't like the captain, he could eject the captain from command at any time and take command of the vessel. Would the analogy work then? Well, clearly it doesn't work when you put in all those factors. And that is exactly the situation modern women are in. You can say the man is in control all you want, but with no-fault divorce, the woman can at any time eject him from command and take command of the vessel. And further, because of the Duluth model and all these other legal situations that have put in place, she functionally never has to obey him because she can merely claim he's being abusive, and immediately an army of police are going to show up at her doorstep and handcuff the husband and drag him off to jail. So when you say you believe in patriarchy, you believe in husbands leading, you cannot believe that and believe in no-fault divorce and the current legal paradigm. The two are mutually exclusive, and not once so far have they talked about no-fault divorce. Not once have they talked about government policies that have been put in place that try and remove the consequences of woman's hypergamous nature.
Their advice, their emotions, their love, it's all part of the package of a healthy society. In our culture, in our Orthodox culture, we view ourselves as a king and a queen of a household. right?
Mhm.
And so it operates under, he is the head, but it's kind of like a car and a driver. Somebody has to, work the steering wheel and the brake pedal. You can't vote on every little nuance of decision making, but she is to be included and listened to, and her opinions to be valued in the home.
Mhm.
And Jamie, address no fault divorce. Do you or do you not support no fault divorce? Because if that is how you view the family, where the man is the king and the woman is the queen, if you believe the woman can at any time eject him from leadership and take command of the car and start steering it herself, you do not believe in patriarchy. Period. I'm sorry.
Think of it this way. If a woman chooses to submit to her husband, if they choose that life, there are two conditions under which a woman would submit. One is she is forced, and the other is that he is truly worthy of her trust and her
Mhm.
following.
Now, here's the kicker. I love statements like this because women will often say, I believe in submission, but I'm only going to submit to my husband if he's loving me properly, if he's leading properly. Again, here's how leadership works. The leader is in charge and therefore responsible. If the people which the leader leads don't have to obey and can in fact at any time mutiny and remove the leader from control, the leader's leadership is fundamentally meaningless. It's really the people, it's really the woman who's in charge. If she at any time, if the man needs to fear that she can eject him from command at any time and she doesn't have to follow his commands, you can say she's forced. Look, if she chooses to marry him, she takes the vows voluntarily, then this is something she agreed to. You can call it force all you want. She has agreed to this arrangement, and now she has to live up to her terms of the agreement. The vows say, "Till death do us part." If you didn't really believe it, you shouldn't have spoken them. I mean, the same is true in the workplace. And yes, it's not quite the same because an employee, if you're an employee and you don't like your boss, you can in fact quit your job. But again, that's part of the contract you signed from the beginning. If you're going to stay in employment, you have to obey the boss.
And red pill, like so many things before it, takes the stance that women are incapable of choosing to submit to you and staying loyal. So the only option is force, but they live in a
They're not incapable. It's simply against their nature. We need moral, legal, and societal restraints that reinforce this. And we need to ensure that the natural consequences of men's polygamous and hypergamous natures are left in place so that the natural marriage, one man, one woman, which is the local outcome of when hypergamy and polygamy crash, remains the norm.
world where men cannot force women to submit to them anymore. So they learn emotional coercion and manipulation to take advantage of injured women
Mhm.
that they can then emotionally force into submitting to them.
The reason men can't force in the reason marriage doesn't work in the traditional sense is because of no fault divorce, the Duluth model, and other state enforced policies. Again, you're going to get nowhere with us unless you actually address these issues. This is why the red pill is catching on, because men and women have a nature. It's obvious to anyone with eyes and a functioning brain that men and women have these natures. Government has acted in a certain way, and we can see it based on the outcome. Fewer people are getting married. Those that are getting married have a much higher rate of divorce. So what are we as men supposed to do? Just ignore it and try to have the traditional deal anyways? You can't under the current paradigm, and that's what the red pill is encouraging men to figure out.
Whatever rising to being worthy of them. That is what red pill is doing. It is the oldest story in the book, just played out with new rules in a new environment.
And that's one of the big things that the red pill guys look for is, will she be submissive? But that in itself is not exactly a virtuous thing, because you could submit to wrong, you could submit to evil, you could submit to, vice, right?
Will she submit fully? And
Here's a question. Everyone submits. The question is to whom? Who has she submitted to in the past? Has she submitted to Chad Maximum? If so, why do you care if she submits to you or not? If you are to lead the household, you need a wife who's going to submit to you. It's not going to work if she's not going to. So look at who she has submitted to in the past. Are they better or worse than you? Are they more or less moral than you? That'll tell you a lot about her and what you need to know. If she sees submission to a good husband as a bad thing or something she's unwilling to submit, she's willing to agree to, she's not worth marrying. And the more women I hear with, strangely enough, and look at my Twitter feed for anyone, my 2 cents on Twitter. Look at some of the debates I've been in recently. Almost all women everywhere, even the so-called Christian ones, hate the word submission. They claim despite the fact that it's 100% biblical, they say they're absolutely against it. They will not submit. They don't submit to no man anywhere. If that's the attitude you have, marriage can't work. Is it any surprise that men are deciding, I'm not going to get married at all?
Completely in every single way within 1 hour of meeting me, and
Yeah.
never ever ask me questions ever again for the rest of my life, then she's the kind of woman I need in my life forever. Yeah, that'll go real great. It'll go great for both of you.
But the submission, it's not that every woman has to submit to every man. A wife should submit to a righteous husband.
A wife should submit to her husband. Before she gets married, it is on her to properly vet him to make sure he is in fact righteous. If she chooses a bad man of her own accord, her obligation to submit does not go away. And that's something I think women refuse to accept accountability for their own choices. They keep trying to say, I don't have to submit to my husband because he's a bad man. Well, you know what, sister? All that proves is that you chose a bad man for your husband. You, women's rights, women's liberation, you hated the fact that fathers were choosing husbands for their daughters. That was so oppressive and backwards. Women have a right to choose their own husbands. You wanted it, you got it. You know what that means? That means it is on you to vet your husband how you're going to. You speak your vows on your wedding day, promising to submit to him. If it turns out later that he's not a righteous man, tough luck. Broken your vows, this was your choice. You chose this man. If we keep bailing women out and saying it's not your fault that you picked a bad husband, are we really going to be so surprised that we get more of the same?
If he's worthy.
Yeah. And that's one of those things that you can't just force it on people like you're talking about, manipulate them into submitting to you. There's things in life like respect. You can't make somebody respect you. You can't make yourself have a bowel movement unless you really, take the laxative. It's something that happens under the proper conditions.
You're right. You can't make someone respect you. You can make someone submit to you. And further, if someone voluntarily agrees to be part of an arrangement where they are in submission to another, the fact that they don't respect them does not absolve them of that obligation. Again, women take zero accountability. The problem is in our modern culture, men have no authority but 100% responsibility. Women have 100% authority but no responsibility. Authority without responsibility is tyranny, and responsibility without authority is slavery. And that really is the position where modern women, modern marriage, are put in a position where they have a tyrannical control of the marriage, and their husband is effectively their slave who will bear all the responsibility when it goes south. Are we really surprised that more and more men are deciding they're not interested in marriage?
Like a climax or something like that. If we're going to talk about relationships and love, you can't just order somebody, pleasure right now. It has to be, brought along in the proper way. And that is, how you get respect and submission, by being somebody who is worthy of that honor.
There are 2 conditions under which a man would not receive submission from his wife, typically. And one is that she is too broken to be able to trust somebody, right? There's that. And there is that he is not worthy of that submission.
What about her nature is naturally hypergamous? When the natural consequences of disobeying or leaving her husband are taken away, and society, government puts welfare in place, puts police in place that believe her unconditionally, and she can get what she wants from disobeying her husband, she just might. Are you seriously saying the only reason a woman will not submit to her husband is because her husband is not worthy? Anytime a woman refused to submit to her husband, it was because her husband was a bad man. Or could it have something to do with how family law is set up, with the fact that she'll be rewarded for disobeying her husband, and that she knows society, the police, the courts will always side with her, no matter what the facts actually are? This is just ridiculous, Adam.
Right.
It's one or the other. Both can be fixed. Both can be fixed. but you have to be smart and you have to be careful and you have to be honest about which it is. And it should be a discussion between the two of you. Do we want a submissive relationship? Do we want a traditional male female submissive hierarchy based on trust, love, respect, cherishing, and mutual fulfillment and building a life together? And
Mhm.
he is the captain, she is the first mate.
Exactly.
He is the CEO, she is the COO. She's not the janitor, right? She's not the receptionist. She is a co-leader with him who happens to be just under his title, but she is over everybody else, and she chooses that so that the functioning hierarchy can make decisions.
And again, that situation you're describing, it cannot work if the COO, if the first mate, if the second in command has unilateral authority to eject the captain and take command of the vessel at any time. The situation can't work. And so long as we have no fault divorce, that is the situation that will exist. Why aren't you addressing this? Further, areas that say, I don't want that, I want an equal partnership, there's no such thing. One person is effectively in charge. And what women usually say, what women really want when they say, I want an equal partnership, is they mean, I want the authority, but I want my husband to have the responsibility. Doesn't work that way, but that's what they are really saying they want. And you as a man should never agree to a situation like that. That is effective slavery. You are being set up to lose.
That is the model for a healthy situation like that. And to do that, he must be fully and completely worthy of it, which means no addictions, no pornography, which means not taking every opportunity to escape from responsibility. It means taking ownership of himself, being a disciplined man.
Yeah, women telling men about escaping responsibility. Yeah.
And of good virtue, of good character, who is trustworthy, reliable, who would be at all times an exceptionally good father. We circle back to it.
Mhm. So, in our last minutes, can you tell us what would be the first step into trying to repair your brain from these red pill lies?
You, the viewer, tell me, what so far have they said that is actually coming from the red pill that is a lie? In fact, they've agreed with a great deal of what comes from the red pill. If anything, they've criticized some of the most fringe extreme PUAs, but that's not the red pill. And what have they offered you in return? Okay, we're in the last 5 minutes. Are they going to offer something meaningful to men to get out of these red pill lies? Let's see what they have to say.
Understand that they paint the world in blue pill, which is anxious attachment style. I'm not worthy of love and no one will ever love me, so I have to pretend. And red pill, I have to become powerful so I can make other people take me seriously, which is more avoidant. And they completely discount the possibility of secure attachment entirely. I don't know what kind of pill we want to call that yet. Maybe it's white pill. Maybe it's, I don't know. We haven't figured out the color for that one yet. We'll get there. But secure attachment is the answer. And it breaks you free from this false dichotomy, the false binary of I must either be controlled or be the controller. No, you can choose to be a full integrated human being who then connects only with full integrated human beings.
Adam, can I do that in a society where there are laws in place that, as you mentioned, allow the woman, in your own analogy, we're going to have a traditional relationship. I'm the captain, she's the first mate. But in the society we live in, she reserves the right at any time to eject me from command and take control of the vessel, financially ruin me, take my children away from me, claim without any evidence that I was abusive towards her, and she'll be unconditionally believed. I'll be handcuffed and brought to jail. Is it possible to do what you're saying in the society we currently live in? And why have you not addressed any of those things? Again, I think it's probably because you want government to leave these policies in place. You want people to be broken so that you can keep selling them your $500 courses and your $7,000 counseling sessions.
Are you going to be able to get on Tinder and find a full integrated human being immediately at the snap of your fingers? Maybe not. It might take more work to get the sex you're trying to get, but it will be more stable and enriching and fulfilling. So number one, understand that different is out there. Number two, start tracking the places in your life where you are not a fully integrated man who is worthy of respect from others and worthy of real connection, submission, fulfillment in your relationships and in your life. Wherever you are afraid.
And you as a man, I challenge every man watching, Are you really willing to take the risk that so long as I am worthy, she will respect me? So long as I am worthy, she will submit to me. Therefore, if she does not respect me, if she does not respect me, it unequivocally and 100% of the time proves that I have done something wrong. Are you willing to accept that? Again, I'd go back to, it's an extreme example, but would you ask any woman in the world to accept a circumstance where your husband can shoot you in the head at will and receive a $10,000 payment from the state, but you don't have anything to worry about, sweetheart? Just do everything right. So long as you don't do anything wrong, you never have to fear that happening. If she's not willing to accept that arrangement, why should you accept the arrangement we currently have?
And giving into that fear where you are submitting to your fear, that is what is holding you back. Get some help. I coach. I have a community. I can help you. There's male coaches.
Here it comes. Pay me to fix your problems.
Out there, there are so many people out there to help you. Make sure they have good moral character, but get out there and overcome your fears by having other people help you. That's the other piece of it as well. No man is an island. Men are meant to function together and to bring each other into the fullness of moral character and discipline and truth. Get connected with other men you admire and have them help you. Learn from them, grow with them. And then number 3, stop chasing women who are so broken that they are guaranteed to destroy you because you can't trust them just as much as they can't trust you.
Adam, have you ever stopped to think of what percentage of women do you think are this broken? By your own admission, because of psyops and government involvement, women like this are getting more common. So just find the woman who's not like this. Well, if the population of women who are like that is growing, what's your advice then?
Stop chasing those women. Start learning to filter for healthy women who are going to love you with all of their heart and be faithfully loyal. Even many wounded, broken, damaged women are still terribly loyal unto death.
And do you trust their loyalty enough that they are never going to break it when they're in a situation where they can, if they so choose, eject you from command at any time?
It's not like every woman with a slight, bang in her fender is going to be completely deaf to you. Find a woman who is capable of loyalty and at least is capable of doing the work to become more fulfilled, healthy herself, just as you are. If you find a woman who is on the path and you are on the path, heal together and have an open, honest discussion about what is happening and what you want from each other. That is the pathway to doing this. And if you need help, contact me.
And pay me
and you
large amounts
Tinder,
of money.
And a lot of people don't realize that these websites, these social medias, these dating apps are designed with addiction in mind. They're not designed to create lifelong partnerships, right? They're designed to keep you on using the app. So they don't want people falling in love and deleting Tinder, right? They want you going on a date and thinking, I could probably have 10 people better than this person, and it's just.
And the reason that works is because the red pill is true. Men and women have this particular nature, and Tinder simply exploits it. If you believe that's a problem, then you believe the red pill.
A gambler's mindset, right? Just keep on doubling down. So you would say, get some real friends, some 3D friends outside in the sunshine, on the grass, other men who are, have the same interests and struggles as you do, and make some friends in 3D. Would you agree with that?
Friends that you respect and who will hold you to a higher standard. Yes. Crucial.
Very good. Well, that is all our time for today. So can you tell us how we can get in touch with you for coaching? And
all right, so that's it. That's they're just going to do their outro now. So we've made it through their entire presentation. Again, let's go over this. The red pill is simply understanding male and female nature when it comes to reproduction, dating, marriage. Men are instinctively polygamous and, absent moral, legal, and societal restraints, tend to pursue whatever strategy allows them to have sex with the highest number of women. Women are naturally hypergamous and, absent moral, legal, or societal restraints, tend to pursue a two-pronged strategy. First, have sex with the most genetically superior man available to secure healthy, strong children. And thereafter, secure the man who is both, use your sexuality to secure the man who is most able to provide protection and provision so that you and your children can live comfortably thereafter. And if at any time another man comes along who is better able to, try your best to transfer your loyalties from your current man to another man. That is how male and female nature works. You don't have to like it. It doesn't mean every man and every woman behave that way in all sets of circumstances. It means those are the natural inclinations of men and women. Now, have either of those things been refuted, or have they in fact been reinforced by what Adam and Jamie had to say here? I leave it to you, the viewer, to decide. Did any of the so-called lies that Adam brought up have anything to do with that? Women are incapable of being loyal. That's not what we're saying. The only way to have a successful relationship is if you use competition anxiety to make sure she's afraid of you leaving her. That's not what we're saying either. Those are all extreme extrapolations that have nothing to do with the red pill. Is there a core base of truth about male and female nature? Yeah, but those are not that's not what the red pill is teaching. If anything, you're picking the most kooky PUA communities and trying to refute them. Did they ever once talk about no-fault divorce? Did they ever once talk about family law? Did they ever once talk about how authority has to match responsibility, that if the man's going to be in charge, his wife cannot have the ability to disobey at any time and eject him from command at any time? No, they didn't address these things at all. So I ask you, the viewer, has the red pill been refuted? And as a final point, looking at the comment section of the last stream and some of the things I've seen on Twitter, if you're going to try and criticize me and just say, I've been studying these issues for 12 years, or I've been studying this issue for so long, I understand this so well, you poor misguided red pill men, who hurt you? You know, why are you so bitter? Did some woman treat you poorly? I don't care why you think I personally came to accept the red pill. As I pointed out in a comment on the last stream, if you try to refute this by identifying why you think I personally came to accept the red pill, that is the genetic fallacy. Identifying how a person comes to believe something has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not that thing is true. If you think the red pill is false, the 2 points I've specifically pointed out, explain why, explain the paradigm that you think better explains male and female behavior. And further, address no-fault divorce, address the way our society is currently set up, and then answer the question, why should men get married under the current paradigm? How does it benefit them as individuals? If you cannot do that, then you have not refuted anything that was said on this stream. All right, thank you everybody for tuning in. When this is over, I will go ahead and put these 2 streams together in a video version so that it can be available for one full thing. And to Jamie Hanshaw and Adam Lane Smith, you may or may not see this, and you probably don't care, but let me just say, if you would like to have a conversation about this, I am more than willing to give you what I believe is the correct perspective of what the red pill really is. Open invitation. You can contact me via Twitter or my email, which is available on my YouTube channel. As always, my 2 cents. Y'all can take it for what it's worth.